Today we're going to cover neuromarketing. This is going to be a crash course, and I will do my best to make it as applicable as possible into today's real world. This course's main source is Thomas Ramsey's neuromarketing course, which is totally amazing. I love that. I definitely suggest you do take that course as well. And other than that, a lot of digital marketing, neuroscience, brain and human psychology books, which is gathered into my digital marketing experience. So we're going to cover how you can implement those information into your company, brand, and how people you can understand, at least have an idea how people make decisions or make purchases, right? So I want to cover first, people have different behaviors. What they say and what they do is totally different. This is why people are relying on neuromarketing. So, people might say certain stuff. You might be thinking, oh, I did a survey, I know what my target customers are gonna say, gonna do, gonna purchase before I even launch the product. But at the end of the day, they're not at the purchase decision. So they act differently when they are in a situation that they have to act, make a purchase, and they act differently when they are in that situation, they're about to buy, take their credit cards, put their information. It is totally different. Why? Because our brains are really complex mechanisms. They work in a network, which makes things really complicated. So, if that was the case, if what people say were true, there will be no neuromarketing existing today, because surveys would give everything. But there are going to be some experiments that I'm going to show you. They ask people, when did you make that decision? But actually they turn out to be the time that they made that decision is completely different than what they say. Their brain activity tell otherwise. So we actually, as humans, make purchase decisions with our primal brains, which is can be falsified, because brain is not like this is the brain structure, by the way, cerebellum, frontal lobe, and whatnot, and they're in the inside of the brain. So this is from the side. It has different parts and whatnot as well. So they track and say, okay, this part is this by the activity of the brain and which parts are activated in certain situations. So they map the brain in a way. But at the end of the day, you might see some other sources telling, okay, this is the rational part of the brain, irrational part of the brain. That is not actually the case. From much sources I've been digging deep in, I can tell that. All right, so let's go back to our point. If surveys was the only case that, telling the truth, nobody would be investing money. Big brands like Hyundai, Coca-Cola, Pepsi wouldn't be investing in neuromarketing, because you might ask a person, why did you buy this? Oh, okay, because the price was cheap and I like the product. But is it really? And we're gonna see that is not really the case, because surveys give an idea, but it is not end all be all. We're going to cover two ways of tracking human brain activity in neuromarketing activity. And one is going to be fMRI. fMRI. This is a huge machine, really expensive machine that costs too much. It's like a big scans that you take, like fills up the room, like a really big machine, and really expensive as well to operate per hour. And there is the EEG scan, which has become more popular recently, and a lot of brands are using this one. They have different functions as well, but most of the tests and surveys and experiments are done with either of those, right? All right, let's jump back into the real part that I want to cover, which is an experiment that they asked people. They gave them money first. They gave each applicant like a $10, $15, whatever it is, to make it real, and they attached that person to a brain scanner, right? And after that, they showed them a product, and the experiment have 4 different segments in and of itself. There is one product section, which takes 4 seconds. They show them the product, and then they tell the price of the product. which is 4 seconds as well. And at the same time, the pupil is being tracked. They have, attachments and whatnot in the brain, on the head, the scalp. And there's the choice section, and they are given to make a choice. They're given 4 seconds to make a choice, and then there's the fixation, which is 2 seconds, and they do nothing, and which is like a control thing at the end of the day. All right, so what did they show to those people? And they actually gave them real money to spend, so they wanted to actually have real data at the end of the day. And they showed them chocolate, a piece of, like a brand of chocolate, right? And they showed the product, which is chocolate. Let's say this one is chocolate, right? They showed the product to a lot of people, and they're still tracking the brain, what is happening in the brain. And most of the people who liked that chocolate and made the purchase decision, their brain, the part in the brain that is responsible for actually, being alerted when they like something, is actually triggered in this part. And then they show the price, and when the price was too unreasonable, the insula of the brain, there's a part called insula or in the brain, is fired up in the brain scanner when the price was too unreasonable. And then the choice section, you ask me, are you going to buy the chocolate? I say either yes or no. I don't have to justify that. The experiment is not conducted that way. So I say either yes or no. And people say yes or no, whatever it is, right? And then they fixate it. And they, at the end of the experiment, they ask that person, they asked that applicant and said, okay, when did you actually make that purchase decision? They all said in the choice section, which is interesting. But people whose brain activated when they like the product, the part that is responsible for liking is triggered, like they fired up in that brain scanner, they all made that purchase before seeing the price. If they like the product that much to buy it regardless of the price, they already bought it. They say, I bought the product when I saw the price and made my decision here. This is what they say. This is the survey, what they say. But what they do is actually brain already told them to buy in this part. When they saw the product, what they do. And if of course the price is, when the price is more reasonable, the insula is triggered and there is more activation in the insula section, and then they decided not to buy, right? This is another case. Yeah, guys, so we covered this fMRI and EEG shortly, but it wasn't that enough, so I want to cover this a little bit more comprehensively in this section. So fMRI, I talked about that. It is a big machine which actually fills up the whole room, and as you can see, $400 per hour. Oh, sorry, $4,000 per hour. I just missed the 10. Imagine that. Like how crazy expensive it is to operate that. And I believe like big brands like Coca-Cola, Pepsi, and like Mercedes are probably utilizing those to actually make really accurate decisions on how people actually respond to their advertisement. If they're about to launch a big campaign with millions of dollars, that makes sense. And this tracks the brain's blood flow. So they can actually, once you go into the machine with your head in, they can track where the blood flow is going, and they have certain areas responsible for certain actions, as we covered this in the previous section. This also shows that, okay, there are a lot of blood flow in the insula area of the brain. We can say this person is disgusted of something. Insula is when you are disgusted of something, you cannot control it, and you automatically you trigger action. Blood flow goes there in the insula section of the brain. Let's cover EEG scan. EEG scan is the much cheaper one. A lot of people are using it. It literally, like in this small area, one person can and track, put an EEG scan on my scalp, which they put like a certain areas, and they track it with like a small machine, which is way cheaper and way smaller. And this is really helpful to track in the on the skull. It tracks the emotions and excitement, certain feelings, so to speak. They can come up with certain, okay, this person feels that excitement happen, and actually this tracks similar to the fMRI scan, but way cheaper and way easier to use. All right, team, welcome back. So this is the deeper brain. So you might be asking, why do I give a damn about the deeper brain? What does that help? So you can take that section of the brain which is looking from the inside, right? So let's say we just split up your brain, and this is the deeper tissue in the brain section. There is basal ganglia, amygdala, hippocampus, and all the other sections, which are actually, we can say those are the primal brain parts, sections. So the primal brain is the one that we had for millions of years as a species. We even way before we started evolving, right? And some come up with this ideology. This is the primal brain. Let me draw this here. So this section is primal brain. Some people say that. Some sources show it as this, primal brain. And then they say, of course, the upper part, the bigger part, is the rational brain. Rational brain. And we can say we make 90% of decisions with our primal brain. So this is an easier depiction of how brain is separated, which is actually not scientifically exactly true, but we can say, okay, we make decisions with the primal brain, and this is the rational part of the brain, which developed maybe like in a million years, in the last million years, and this primal brain have been around probably like 50 million years, right? It is that old, like millions of years I'm talking. So this is the oldest part of the brain. This is really responsible for our daily decisions. So we cannot as species sit down and think about, oh, should I like hit the gas pedal, or should I like drink the water holding my hand like this? We don't really think about those stuff. This is literally ingrained in our behaviors, and our nervous system is like literally making those decisions right off the bat. We're not really putting too much time and effort in making those decisions. And if you are selling a low ticket item, in this case, arousing that primal brain is extremely important. But of course, if you're selling, let's say, a car, a house, a mansion, people do not make decisions with their primal brains. That is not really the case, because it involves a lot of pros and cons thinking. A person sits down and like writes the pros and cons. If I pay this, how much do I have to save in the next 10 years, which is like a planning involved, a lot of stuff involved. So that is not primal brain decision making. But what I want to say, this, guys, is really important in this case. So people, as I said, make decisions. 90% of daily decisions are done with the primal brain, because this includes, most of you guys watching are probably not selling houses or cars, and most of you are falling into that 90% chart, 90% section. And this is really important to grasp, because all your marketing is going to be triggering people's primal brains. So you might be asking, Jim, what the hell does that even mean? Like, what should I do? You didn't give me any tips to that. I'm going to give you a lot of tips on how to arouse that primal brain. So people within the primal brain, they make automatic decisions. What are human brains' main goal in life? Main goal. What is our main goal in life as human species? Eat first, which is helping us to survive, right? This is essential. Eat, which is going to help us to survive. Basic needs. Food, the most basic needs ever. Second, sex, which is essential for us to pass our genes to the next generation. we can say reproduce. This is really essential as well. And then safety. This is not that essential, but I also always want to put it there as well. So this can be a trigger in the primal brain too. So in the eat section, this is pretty self-explanatory, right? If we eat sugar, our insulin spikes, we get some sort of arousal, and we also want to eat more fats because being super ripped and jacked is not really helpful for our evolutionary survival. Because why? We've been walking in the tribes for ages, and if we need to store fats under our connective tissue, under our skin, we need layers of fats in case there's a famine, certain catastrophe that might have happen. So which is crucial for us to store fat. So that's why we have sense of joy when we eat like high calorie meals, chocolate, cheesecake, ice cream. That's why we get so aroused with this type of stuff. So this is eat, survive, and also that is why we get so much joy eating high calorie meals, candies, chocolates, burgers, high fat meals. Because what? Fat contains 9 grams of 1 gram of fat contains 9 calories, and 1 gram of carb and 1 gram of protein contains 4 calories. So make that, so fat is more calorie dense, 1 gram of fat. That's why we like fatty foods, French fries, burgers, pizza, right? So that makes sense actually. Sex. Okay, this part goes actually really, it fragmentates. So let me just erase this part. It has multiple subheadings. Sex is not only sex. Let me just write sex here. Okay. So how can we have more sex? Have like reproduce our genes to let's say I'm talking in the man's eyes in this case, but you can apply this to a girl as well. So let's think about this. In how can we have more sex? Back in the days, we have to be strong, right? Powerful, good looking. Back in the days, being powerful helped us do what? Save from us being prey, simply, right? So saving us from predators, which is powerful, physical power, physical strength, the muscle mass, the overall mass, quickness. But today, that is not that important. That power translated into social status. Once we settled down and when we were hunter and gatherers, and then we settled down and we started doing agriculture. Agricultural revolution helped us do what? We had to be more powerful in an environment and be respected, which is social proof, which is, let's type those, social proof, respect, being a leader. Leader means what? A lot of people is following your lead. You're the leader. So that's like girls are looking for those features and qualities of a man. So those stuff, respect, leadership, social proof, good looking, powerful, those all help us have better partners. And this way, those help us do what? Have a better partner, have sex, and have high quality offsprings, which is gonna help us become more powerful in a sense, right? This is like an evolutionary ingrained in our DNA, which we cannot change. Let's think about this. When you buy a piece of clothing, why do you buy like a fancy piece of clothing? Why? Like at the end of the day, there is no reason behind that. People might say, oh, I like to look good, but no. If you were in prison and you were to see nobody for the rest of your life, you wouldn't give a damn what Gucci you're wearing, like a Gucci jacket, Prada shoes, nothing else. You wouldn't care because nobody's gonna see you. Like you're gonna be just alone, one person, and nobody gives a damn about that. In that case, what is being important is people's perception of you, which is gonna help you have sex, and you're gonna have better quality offsprings with a beautiful looking girl, which is gonna help you in that sense, right? So everything we do is gonna be involved with sex. End goal is sex, arousal, being a leader, why you wanna be a good leader, why you wanna be respected. At the end of the day, sex is the main answer. So when you're selling a product, always try to write copies based on that. Of course, you have to be really clever in that, right? When you're selling, let's say, a business course, be well respected in the society. Always underline that. Rather than saying features and benefits, let's say, rather than saying, oh, okay, this t-shirt is, latex, like really comfortable, and $39.99 free shipping. Okay, these are good qualities, features, but what is the benefit, right? What is the end goal that people want? Because remember, 90% of our daily decisions are made by the primal brain. That's why we want to underline those, so people, okay, automatically connect that dots. I want to have that tie, I want to have that ring, I want to have that thing to be more respected and be perceived as more good looking in the society. That's the main reason we make decisions in our primal brain. Of course, I also have my free copywriting course on YouTube, which is totally free. Check it out, which we cover the main elements, how to write a good copy for your advertisement. Amazing course, don't miss that one. Anyways, once we get this thing covered, let's look at the parts and sections of the brain, which is also really important. Let's take a look. We have basal ganglia, which is responsible for motor control, outcome prediction, and impulses. Motor control, for example, you're riding a bicycle, you never really think of it, you just do. Like driving a car, when you first learn it, you consciously think, okay, now I have to take my foot off the pedal. You start consciously doing it. Once it becomes a habit, you literally do it automatically. That's why it is not in the rational parts of our brain, right? We don't predict, oh, so I have to put my foot on the gas, I'm right now I'm holding the fucking steering wheel. You don't ever think about that. You do this stuff automatically with our subconscious minds. Amygdala. Some people say amygdala, this red part here, is responsible for panic attacks, and once we see a certain threat, like a fight or flight, we just respond right away. Amygdala fires, we start shaking and sweating and sort of stuff. But some people say that is not the case. The amygdala is not really responsible for that. And amygdala is responsible for emotional arousal, novelty, and learning. It is totally, people are saying different things in that case, but this is the source that I picked it up from, and I wrote it like that. Hippocampus, object memory. This is really basic part of the brain, and there was one guy which Thomas Ramsey in his course is talking about that experiment, which is really, really cool. I want to share that with you guys as well. Hippocampus, one guy was having seizures, and he wanted to get rid of his seizures, and they took it was like one of the first hippocampus removal surgeries. They took his hippocampus out, which was actually responsible for his seizures, which was constantly having seizures, and they took it out. The seizures gone away. He didn't have any seizures after that procedure, but what happened is his memory is actually collapsed. He started forgetting basic stuff, and once they were asking him who is the president of the United States, and he's always telling the president before he had the brain surgery. So which is the case of how object memory and other type of memories as well impacted by hippocampus. And cingulate cortex, attention control, affect regulation, and responsible for that as well. And this is the inside part of the brain, so which we cannot actually see from the outside. Once we cut it up and look at it, we can see, okay, this is the inside parts that are really small. We can call that maybe primal brains, and this is responsible for that. All right. There are two streams of mind, which is going to be really helpful for us when we are creating advertisement, because people process information in two ways. Once we see an information, which is our eyes are here, and we are not actually seeing what is out there. Brain actually is a mapping machine. Brain maps the information, and when there is a missing information in the visual that we see, brain automatically fills that up. But let's say we see something from the eyes here. It goes all the way back to visual cortex, and the visual cortex processes that information in two ways. How brain processes that information: ventral stream and the dorsal stream. And the ventral stream is responsible for what is type of information. Let's write it up. What is. And dorsal stream is responsible for how to use that information. How to. So let's say you see an object that you haven't seen before. Which cortex, which stream is going to be responsible for that type of information when you see that? And it is going to be exactly ventral stream. So you see that, and the ventral stream is going to send that information back to this section of the brain, which is going to be object identity. You're going to identify that object. And there is this dorsal stream, and you also identify this by potential actions. You see the potential actions of that object. And this ties back to using user-generated content. So how you can do this is, so there are certain ads that's showing, let's say, a sunglasses ad, right? You're on Facebook, you're scrolling down, and this is Facebook, and you see one single image ad, which is, let's say it's a t-shirt. This is a t-shirt. You see that t-shirt, not in use, just a basic picture of t-shirt, which is literally cropped out from the website and put it as an ad. What is this? How you see that and how you process that information? This is literally going to be the ventral stream, which is going to be object identity. You're simply going to say, okay, this is a t-shirt, and you're not going to activate your dorsal stream, which we want to activate that as well, and to make better sales and be more profitable with advertisement that you do. What you want to do instead is user-generated content. User-generated content. These are once people is like, say, a person is trying a Gymshark shirt and unboxing a product. A person is literally using that product, even if it's as simple as a t-shirt. You want some person to actually put it on. Even like of course, we all know t-shirt, how to use that t-shirt, put it on, and it's like fucking simple. But it's actually is easier for our brain. We don't want to process information. Our brains are mainly looking ways to conserve energy. Why brain is actually taking too much oxygen and really active. Even though we sleep, brain is still consuming some energy. We want to make brain process as less information as possible, so we want to give it everything. But there is a way to do that. User-generated content is one of the best ways in advertising in 2022, 2023. I think if this decade up to 2030 is going to be really powerful still. User-generated content. Right now, Gymshark is rocking that. A lot of good brands, Lumen, Lululemon, a lot of like upcoming good. Gymshark is not an upcoming brand anymore, but they're rocking that user-generated content, and a lot of small brands that are actually making good sales as using user-generated content. You don't want to be, like straight out of 1990s Vogue magazine, looking so classy, and that's gonna not make any sales because there's no also the connection with that person at the end of the day. You want to have that connection by using user-generated content, which is like if we talk about it in a shallow way, it doesn't look genuine. But if you use user-generated content, it is going to look genuine. A person is putting that on. You don't have to be straight out of Vogue magazine because that doesn't make sales anymore. And in a scientifically proven way of understanding user-generated content is you're triggering both ventral stream of processing information and both dorsal stream from visual cortex and consuming that information. You can see we understand from dorsal stream the potential actions of that product, using that product, and object identity. Thomas Ramsey talks about this as well. He gave a great example, and in that example he talks about there is one person, some people actually have their ventral stream, which is this stream processes what is type of information, is not broken but damaged, let's say, or not working properly, that stream, that information processing stream. And they don't know, when you give them a pencil, they can't tell you that it is a pencil, but if you ask them how to use it, they're going to take it and write stuff down. And there are other types of person whose dorsal stream is damaged or not working properly, and you're going to give them a pencil. They're going to know it is a pencil, but you're going to ask them, how can you use this? Please, like, demonstrate to us. And they're not going to be able to do it. Like, they're just going to be like smashing walls and stuff, right? This was a great example from him. I just wanted to share, and let's get on and move on, guys. So now we're gonna cover how fast we process information, which is really important. Is actually way quicker than we think. We think, okay, we need certain amount of time to actually understand what is going on in a certain advertisement, but it's actually the opposite. We actually process information way faster than we think, and our unconscious brain is actually absorbing that information. And I want to talk about awareness and consciousness. They're both two different things. Unconscious decisions impact our buying decisions every day. Unconscious decisions impact our buying actions, so to speak. So let's say there's a good advertisement just right in front of me. I'm looking at that as well. So there is the group a picture of a product, a millisecond. I'm talking about a millisecond. 1 millisecond, which is extremely short, not even a second, like I'm talking about millisecond. And they showed it, this one, and then they took that group of people to another place, and they asked them, okay, which one do you remember from seeing? And they showed the ad that they seen in 1 millisecond, way before they've seen this like bunch of options. Let's say I show you 10 ads. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And let's say this one is the one that I'm going to show you like 5 hours later, right? And you've seen all, and then I take you to a different place, and I showed all the ads for 1 millisecond. 1 millisecond, 1 millisecond, 1 millisecond each. And I take you to a different place, and we are here, and I show you 10 different ads again. But they're not going 1 millisecond, 1 millisecond. These are like proper ads. You sit down and watch 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Let's say the 10th one is the one that you've seen for 1 millisecond. This is matching here. And you're going to remember automatically, but if I ask you to identify those, you're not going to be consciously thinking, identifying those, but when you see them in a different environment, because you had more than one touch points. And there's an old saying that goes, not old saying, but advertising, a person needs to have 7 touch points to make a purchase decisions. So this is actually not a true saying, but it can be actually true in a high, let's say high-end, high-ticket products or services. But in a simple product, we can say the more high touch points we have, unconsciously we step into that person's, into that possible customers, into that potential customer's brain in a way. So the more touch points we have is the better. Because when I first started, I was really against brand awareness campaigns, because I thought Facebook was, choosing people who are less likely to buy. But actually we are having multiple touch points with that type of person. And if you let's say if you have a brick and mortar shop plus the online sales, that actually helps a lot. That person might come across to your ads in a different stage. But if your budget is super limited, you don't want to waste it on brand awareness campaigns. This is a totally different topic. Yeah, so you can check my Jim's Zero to Hero digital marketing course as well on the website. All right, and mobile ads are seen less than half a second, and 67% of the mobile ads are seen less than half a second. So this is actually how fast we process information. So less than half a second, we see almost 70% of the ads. We process them as well. And I see some people, some brands, and big brands as well. And in the past, I've seen those. They send ads to us to implement on Facebook ads, Google ads, YouTube ads, whatever. And you see, in the first second, they want to make it, exciting. And there's a black screen that goes like a movie trailer, right? It starts like a movie trailer and goes on seeing this, slowly getting into the product. But actually, they want to make it like a cinematic, but in real life, they're actually wasting time, because the cognitive load, which I'm going to cover in the next slide, is so high on mobile and desktop screens. When we go on Facebook, they're everywhere. Information. And we don't want to handle all information, and we start to dissipate from what we see. And we don't want to have that. We want to get straight to the point. We don't want to even waste half a second. As I told you here, 1 millisecond, they recognize what they see in a later setting when they see it again. So what we want to do is stay away from fancy stuff and get to the point right away. What do I mean by that? You're going to see some ads with black screen at the start, like even half a second. Avoid that right away. I'm not talking about just show your product like a blatantly. That doesn't work as well. I'm talking about, okay, of course, you're going to agitate the problem, agitate what that person is going to have as a problem, and then you provide that solution at the end as a, like a God's hand, putting it, okay, this is the solution to your problem, and these are the benefits to your life, to your problem. And you can do that, but I'm telling you, don't waste even a millisecond in the start of the video. Start by showing faces, start by showing the problem. Always make sure you're nitty-gritty in the editing section of what you do. All right, guys, now we're gonna cover the load section of things, which is also really important when you're writing ads or designing your website. This is gonna be a crucial part of your advertising and branding activity. So let's get right into it. What is perceptual load? Perceptual load is the load we see on a screen. If there's too much information, too much going on, you see those websites, there are a lot of things, like certain stuff is getting too much for you to handle. That is perceptual mode and load. There is visual maps, heat maps, websites that are free. You can use them, put your website in. You can see the heat maps, visual maps of what people see. That one's perceptual load is the amounts of information that is being put in front of you, like the amount of information presented, we can say. Amount of info presented. There can be too much, like way over you can comprehend, but it doesn't equal to cognitive load. That's what I mean. So there can be too much going on, but depending on the person, the cognitive load can be low or high. But a perceptual load is, if it's high, it's high. If it's low, it's low. So it is not subject to debate, but cognitive load is kind of subject to debate. And let's go to, I want to first, before I go to cognitive load, I want to talk about working memory. Because working memory is what we study in the exams back in the days, what we, study, we memorize it for a short period of time. But if you practice enough and it becomes a habit and you never forget that. For example, working memory is not driving a car. You're not actively thinking about, oh, I drive this right now and I'm doing this, like pressing the pedal. You don't think about that. It is not working memory. But working memory, if I give you 10 words right now, right off the bat, random words, and I want you to memorize them in 2 seconds. and you're gonna try, like, work really hard to memorize them, and you're probably gonna memorize 4 of them. It's usually the case. It is usually given for plus minus 2. Active memory, you can hold that many items, words, or even I can show you items. Same case, 10 items, 100 items. I give you and I tell you to memorize as much as possible. You're probably gonna memorize most 6, worst case 2, 3. This is the working memory. You're not gonna be able to remember everything by heart. It is impossible. It's a working memory thing. So that's why once you want to put some information in brand awareness activity, advertisements, I want to usually keep it as brief as possible. Because if it's a brand awareness activity, people are not going to be able to remember anything. And their unconscious brain is going to be working, but the amount of information presented is also important. So I want to have low perceptual load and low requirements on working memory. But when? This is only for brand awareness activity. Brand awareness. When I do a warm campaign or a hot campaign, or if I'm selling a product that is, or the campaign is not brand awareness, I'm straight running a conversion campaign, I definitely 100 and 110% don't want to use too less information. I want to put as much information as possible, because in that stage, that person is making decision to buy. And that's in that stage, they're going to have their rational brain being involved, and they're going to think about why, pros and cons. And of course, there's the primal brain is going to be more in control. But if you are remarketing to them, in a sense, and you want to put different information in, and the more you write, the more you have chance of sticking to that people. So let's say we talked about working memory holds 6 to, let's say 4 to, let's say 2 to 6 words and items. But in this case, working memory is I'm telling you something and I'm taking that away from you and asking you again. But in an ad format, if you want them to buy right away, the more you write is not damaging your selling ability. What do I mean by that? Because you're presenting them the creative in their feeds, Instagram story, Facebook feed, whatever it is, marketplace, whatever it is. You're presenting your information in, and they don't have to memorize that. You want them to buy right away, because you can get away with putting so much information in. That's why I say if you're launching a conversion campaign, let's write conversion campaign, the more benefits is better. And I also see that in product descriptions. I had some clients back in the days with really bad, really awful product descriptions. There's really literally nothing. It looks like a scam product, and they wonder why they're not making any sales. Because the website, if the ads, you're running the best ads in the world, best user-generated content in the world, if your product description is not lengthy, there is no information, people are not going to buy. This is extremely important. When you're about to buy, you want to have as much perceptual load as possible, because they're not going to be able to have to memorize that, because it's not a brand awareness campaign. You want to load them with as much information as possible. This is going to be critical, guys. And I want to cover one last thing, cognitive load. Cognitive load is what you can handle, what you can, it's not working memory, it's not perceptual load, but it's a little bit more related to perceptual load. Cognitive load, if you have too much going on, your cognitive load is going to be higher if you try to process that much information. And of course, it's going to be depending on person to person, ability to process information, let's say. Ability to process info. All right, guys, if this was a really short crash course, drop a like, subscribe if you haven't already. Take care, guys.